Hi everyone, my name is Taylor and I love to read books. It's my entire personality and I decided that I'm officially going to start posting YouTube videos for real in 2025, and so this is going to be my first official video. I'm going to be doing my top 10 reads of 2024. This was very hard to narrow down, but I have my official 10 and then there are going to be 2 honorable mentions that did not quite fit, but I need to talk about them. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Lord. Okay, well, they're all falling. Okay. Never mind. My number 1 read of the entire year was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. I know so many people absolutely despise Magnolia and BJ, but they are my favorite. Just not my favorite couple of all time, but something about them I just love so much. This is the 3rd and final book in Magnolia and BJ's story. There are going to be more books coming out in the Magnolia Parks universe, but this is the end of Magnolia and BJ, and I love them so much. There is a prequel coming out. I just thought about that. There's a prequel coming out. Oh my god. But to anyone who does not know what Magnolia Parks is about, basically Magnolia and BJ, they have been friends forever. They're childhood best friends to lovers, and Magnolia Parks starts out when Magnolia and BJ have broken up. So that's when it starts. You know that BJ cheated on Magnolia, which I know is like an instant red flag for it is a red flag. It is, but that is what deters so many people from reading the series, is because everyone says BJ's a cheater, but like once you read it and once you understand what happened, I'm not saying that it's fine, but like I don't know, you don't get as mad once you actually read it and you understand what happened, why he did what he did, even though cheating is not, there's no excuse for cheating. However, BJ, I love Magnolia and BJ with my entire being. The only way that I can explain this series is like Gossip Girl, but make it London. It's honestly just high class society people from London. The entire friend group, it follows the entire Magnolia Park series, and oh my god, I love it so much. Now, this one is the 3rd book in Magnolia and BJ's story. Something at the end of the 2nd book happens that is very heavy, and so this entire book goes through just grief and sadness, but also happiness, and the end of Magnolia and BJ's story, and it is the most bittersweet ending. It's the most beautiful conclusion to a love story I've ever seen, and Jessa Hastings really did Magnolia and BJ justice with this one, because this book is so important for so many different reasons, and I love it so much. Now, as for the rest of my favorite books, these are kind of just all over the place. There's not a specific ranking. The only one that has a ranking is Magnolia Parks, because that was number 1. Love it so much. But next up we have When the Moon Hatched. When the Moon Hatched is a fantasy. I don't even really know how to explain it, because there's dragons, but there's moons, and the dragons come down to the world from moons, and it's kind of like a little bit of reincarnation. This one really, I do not know how to explain, if I'm going to be completely honest. I wish that it was longer, and this is huge, and I wish that it was longer. This is the 1st book in the Moonfall series, and the 2nd one is coming out later in 2025, and I'm so excited because this left off on the most god-awful cliffhanger. Oh my god, it still makes me angry when I think about it. But this follows an assassin, and she gets taken by this group of nobles, and there's also a king, and the king is crushed by the loss of the love of his life, and their paths get intertwined somehow, and it is so good. Next up we have Guild. Guild is the 1st book in the Plated Prisoner series. I'm still currently reading this series, but I read the first 4 books in 2024. This is a King Midas retelling, and it's a very dark fantasy, and the main girl has been gold touched by Midas, and so for the last 10 years or so he has had her locked away in a cage because she is his precious one. He does not let anyone touch her. She's kind of in love with him, but honestly she's been groomed by him, so it's like you hate him as a reader, but she loves him, and while that seems very frustrating, it is incredible. And this entire series, I was looking for something at the end of 2024. Like, I literally read this in the last week of 2024, the last week of December, and I hadn't fallen out of love with reading, but I wasn't in love with reading as much as I have been, just because nothing that I've been reading lately has been hitting the same. Nothing has been making me just die to read it, think about it 24/7. I'm dying to get home from work to read. Nothing has made me feel that way until I read this. This truly came at the last possible moment, and it is incredible. It's everything. Next up, we have Limerence. This is the most underrated book. This is a dark high school romance, but do not let the fact that it's a high school romance deter you, because it kind of was a little bit iffy to me at first too. But overall, this, oh my gosh, this is incredible. The main girl ends up going to a prep school, but she is on a scholarship, and so everyone there is rich. They're a little bit snobby. She tries to keep to herself because she has nothing in common with any of them. But one day she sees the happy-go-lucky popular guy that everyone loves. He just really seems like the golden boy of the school. She sees him murder someone, and so when she confronts him and is like, I know what you did, I saw what you did, he begins to blackmail her because he's rich. His parents help fund the school. No one's gonna believe what she says. So, and then he becomes obsessed with her. He's kind of bullying her. He's blackmailing her. I am not one for a bully romance, but this man was psychotic. He was crazy. He was a sociopath. It was like he was manipulating her, but he was also manipulating the reader, because I would be reading it and I'm like, I'm feeling bad for you right now. Why am I feeling bad for you? Because you are quite literally words on paper. Like, the way that this was written was crazy. This was in my Goodreads 2024 wrap up. This was the most unshelved book because it is so underrated. Like, I need more people to read this. However, this does leave off on a cliffhanger, but I believe the author said that the next one is gonna be coming out within 6 months or so. So good. That is also on Kindle Unlimited, but I just needed the paperback because it was so good. And then we have the Mindfuck series. I think about Lana Myers so often. Her story is incredible. She is one of the most just strong FMCs. What she perseveres through, what she goes through, her backstory, everything about it. Check your trigger warnings for this. This is so dark. But the main girl is a serial killer, but she's killing the people who have wronged her in her past. And the FBI agent who's on her case, he's literally looking for her. He ends up falling for her, and he has no idea that the person that he has begun dating and he's fallen in love with is the murderer that he's looking for. And overall, it is so good. This is technically 5 different books, so you can kind of count it as 5 books in your reading goal if you want to cheat a little bit, which is what I did. But this book is everything to me. This was so good. The next one might ruffle a little bit of feathers, but this is God of War by Rina. This is the last book in the Legacy of God series. This is an interconnected standalone in her Mafia series. Now, these are not Mafia books per se, but, well, they kind of are. Rina has a bigger Mafia series, and this is the second gen to that. So this is, Legacy of Gods is about the children of her bigger Mafia series. Now, this follows Eli and Ava, and Eli's father is one of the, like, iconic Rina men in her original Mafia series, and he's crazy. So Eli, it's only fitting that Eli is also crazy. This does have the amnesia trope in it, which I typically despise the amnesia trope, but something about this, and I think that that's why so many people didn't like this as well, but I ate this up. I loved everything about it. I read this in one sitting, but basically they have been childhood enemies forever. Like, when she was younger, she was in love with him, but he never reciprocated because he was a couple years older than her. But their families were always connected because, like I said, they are from like similar Mafia families, and so they grew up together. She always had a crush on him. He always rejected her, and then eventually she turns to hating him because she has gone her entire life loving him, and then, you know, so she ends up hating him. And then one day she gets into an accident, loses all of her memories. She wakes up, suddenly they're married, and he tells her that they have been married for the past 2 years, and it's a whirlwind. It is a whirlwind, but it is so good. Keeping with the theme of dark romance, we have Insatiable by Leigh Rivers. This is the first book in the Edge of Darkness trilogy. This series was such a surprise to me because I fully did not expect to love this as much as I did. But this follows Cade and Stacy. Check your trigger warnings for this for sure, but Stacy is best friends with Cade's sister, and so when they start dating, she doesn't tell anyone. She wants to keep it a secret because she doesn't know how her best friend, Cade's sister, is going to react. And they end up breaking up because Stacy does something that is horrible to Cade, or Cade thinks that Stacy did something that's horrible. They end up breaking up. Cade absolutely despises her. And so for the past 2 years, they've been broken up, and that is where the story starts. And so you kind of go through how they initially got together, throughout their relationship, what happened to make them break up, and also present day. So you're kind of going back and forth between timelines, which was really interesting. But throughout the past 2 years of them being broken up, Cade has gotten into some mafia business. He has a lot of darker ties now, and he's a much darker version of himself that Stacy ever knew. And also throughout the past 2 years, Cade says that he hates Stacy, but every time she sleeps with someone, every time she's hanging out with a guy, something ends up happening to the guy that's very suspicious. Like, he literally set the guy's house on fire that she was hooking up with, but he hates her. Doesn't sound like he hates her to me. And literally the back of this book, I'm just now noticing, says if he can't have her, no one else can. Cade Mitchell is obsessed with someone he despises. Oh my god, this is second chance romance, and I typically hate second chance romance. I feel like a lot of these books this year that are in my top 10 are tropes that I typically hate, but sometimes we got a good one. So I loved this so much. This entire trilogy was just, it was like you would think that things were looking up, things were getting better, and then you'd get stabbed in the back, and then your heart would be ripped out, and then you're getting stomped on, and then it's like you think that everything's fine, and then the author's like, nope, we can't have nice things. So this is definitely an emotional roller coaster, but it is so good. This is also in the same universe as Little Stranger and Little Liar by this author, and I believe that we're going to be getting a second gen book, and also in 2025 we're going to be getting a book about Cade's father, and I'm so excited because Cade's father is fucking crazy. Sticking with the dark romance theme, I'm going to go ahead and do the Syndicator. This is the final book. It's the epilogue finale book in the Darkverse series. I know so many people hated this book. However, I love Darkverse with my entire being. This is one of my favorite universes of all time. These couples were incredible. I like the people in this series are so near and dear to my heart that I just simply cannot fathom not liking this. And honestly, I think a lot of people going into this expected just like a fluffy epilogue book, but the story was not finished. And so I think going into this, I expected for the story to continue, for there to be sadness, for there to be darkness, but then at the end, there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what we got. And I honestly could not have expected anything less from this book, so I loved this so much. Each book carries over through a different couple, but also there is a flowing story throughout the entire series, so you do have to read them in order. But these are some of my favorite books of all time, and they are dark, so check your trigger warning. Some of them are darker than others, but they are so good. This mafia universe is one of the most just unique mafia universes I've ever read about, and honestly there's a plot about a shadow man, and the shadow man kind of feeds them information, and eventually you get a book about the shadow man, and oh my god, it's one of the most, I feel like, well thought out plots and well thought out mafia series of all time, and it is so good. Now, sticking with the runyx theme, because the Syndicator is by runyx, we also have gothikana. This is another unpopular opinion. I feel like a lot of people absolutely despise this book. This is a dark academia teacher student. It's just very gothic, very spooky, but it is so good. But it's not like a creepy teacher student in an Arya and Ezra type of way. It's very much, even though we all watched Pretty Little Liars when we were younger and we were living for Arya and Ezra, so it's fine. Now that we've gotten older, we've realized that that was a little bit problematic. A lot of it problematic. But this says, the silver-eyed devil of Varen Moor, the dark god who played like it was both a blessing and a curse, her multifaceted, enigmatic, one-time lover who knew the secrets of her soul. He'd found her. And this is such a dark world. There's a little bit of magic in it, but I don't technically think it's considered to be fantasy, but it's so good. And look at these edges. Look at how pretty the cover is. And then finally, we have All This Twisted Glory by Tahereh Mafi. This is the author of Shatter Me. Shatter Me was my favorite series of all time for the longest time. It's still within my top 10 series of all time. It's so good. But this series has the chance to become my favorite series by this author. It has the chance to dethrone Shatter Me, depending on how the series ends. This is the third book in an unfinished series. I believe there's going to be 5 books, I think. I went into this thinking that it was the last book. So when I got to the end, like when I got about 75% in, and I was like, there's absolutely no way that like this series is going to end here because we have not solved anything. Oh my god. But essentially the main girl is the long lost heir to a kingdom that they think that she's dead. And you know, I'm starting to think a lot of my favorite fantasy series are very similar. Anyway, but her kingdom thinks that she's dead, and eventually she is kind of like rising from the ashes type of thing. And this is enemies to lovers. The guy that she ends up getting with is so dark. Oh my god, I love him. But there's also like a devil that is, it's not inside of her head, but it will, like, the devil will kind of tell her things and is watching her, and it's kind of crazy. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's just such a unique story and such a unique fantasy series, and so underrated. It is so good. Now, my honorable mentions, one of them is Play Along by Liz Tomforde. This is the newest book in the Windy City series. This is an interconnected standalone sports romance series. Each book is about a different sport usually. This one is baseball, which we've actually already had a baseball one, but usually they're different. This follows Isaiah, who plays on a professional baseball team, and Kennedy, who is the athletic trainer for the baseball team, and basically they kind of have like a flirty relationship. He really likes her, but she's against it because she's the athletic trainer for the team. She doesn't want to risk her job because she kind of has a shitty boss. She wants to become a doctor, actually. She has the credentials to become a doctor, but she can't because the boss is sexist and he's a jerk and we hate him. But she doesn't want to mess up any opportunities for her current job, so she's ignoring Isaiah's advances towards her, and eventually one day they wake up in Vegas and her and Isaiah have gotten married, and that's that. They agree to keep up the facade of the marriage because of her jerk of a boss, and Isaiah is kind of like, if you stay married to me, then he can't do anything to you because I'm one of the star players, and blah 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 blah. And I read this in one sitting. Oh my god. I also don't really like fake marriage either. I don't really like, this is just a continuation of tropes that I usually don't like that I loved this year. That should be the title of this video. Books I loved with tropes I hate. It's something about in books when people wake up married in Vegas. It's so cliche to me, and I'm just like, but something about this, perfection. I need the physical copy. I don't have them. I don't know why I don't have them, but I need them. And then I don't know what the other honorable mention was gonna be. What was it gonna be? Oh no, let me go through my Goodreads, because I do not remember what I had 2 honorable mentions, which I did reread some of my favorite series this year, but I'm not including any rereads just because I talk about them enough. But we've got Throne of Glass, we've got Boys of Tommen, we've got Magnolia Parks, which Magnolia Parks Into the Dark is included in this. I just read the rest of the Magnolia Parks last year. What else did I reread this year? That's literally it. I reread Throne of Glass and Boys of Tommen 3 times. Am I okay? Oh my god, what was it? Oh my god, Hollow Boys. The Hollow Boys series by Monty J. I need the physical copies of these so bad. But this follows a group of the Hollow Boys who are just infamous guys in town. The town is terrified of them because they have a lot of power, and each book follows a different guy. This is like a spooky dark romance. It's a very, I would say read this in October if you want like a spooky vibe, but honestly read it now because it's so good. But I would say my favorite one in the series is The Blood We Crave. There's part 1 and 2, but for the sake of just having one book, we're gonna say part 1. But this follows Thatcher and Lyra. Thatcher is the son of an infamous serial killer, and he kind of follows in his father's footsteps a little bit, not gonna lie. So everyone's scared of him, and he has a lot of power. He's one of the Hollow Boys, of course. And Lyra has a connection to Thatcher from her childhood, but she's never really talked much to him in person, but she knows of him. She knows of his connection to her childhood. But Lyra has been infatuated with him her entire life. She's been following Thatcher as like his shadow. He calls her his phantom, and they are complete opposites. Thatcher is very OCD. He's very clean cut. Lyra is the complete opposite. She's obsessed with bugs. He's disgusted by her, but he's also entranced by her, and he's obsessed with her, and it just, oh my god, it's so good. So good. This entire series is incredible, and there's also a 2nd gen series that is slowly coming out. The first book came out this past year, and oh my god, it's so good. These were all of my top 10 books of 2024, technically top 12. So I kind of cheated, but it's fine. I'm so excited to know what my top 10 of 2025 are going to be. I feel like I'm really going to be in my fantasy era, and I'm very excited for that. But yeah, if you read any of these, let me know. Let me know in the comments your top 10 or some of your favorite books of 2024, because I'm itching to just read books in 2025 that are going to change my life. And that's what I need. So, but thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time to yap about books.